The red sands of Duna stretched endlessly beneath the twin suns, shimmering like molten copper. Dirk Kinton wiped sweat from his brow and leaned against his digging rig, watching as his fellow workers struggled against the unforgiving terrain. The Earth-owned mining operation was tough work, but they made the best of it. Gritty jokes, friendly wagers, and the occasional stolen break beneath the shade of a supply crate. Ori Dirk called a stocky worker named Miles, grinning as he hauled a crate of supplies. Going into the city today. Don't forget to bring back something good. None of that sour tiarma fruit. That sour tiarma fruit is the reason your gut ain't rotting from the camp grub. Dirk shot back with a smirk. He rolled his shoulders, feeling the strain of the day's labor, but there was something almost comforting in the routine. The tiarma, the native race of Duna, had been coexisting with humans for decades. They were taller than humans on average, with silver-toned skin, sharp features, and eyes that shimmered like polished onyx. Their city, Razira, sat just a few miles from the dig site, a sprawl of curved stone buildings and glowing lanterns that painted the night in hues of violet and gold. Dirk had visited plenty of times. The tiarma merchants were good business partners, and he enjoyed the hum of life in their markets, the scent of roasted meats, the clang of metalworkers, hammering ornate blades, the laughter of children weaving between the stalls. Today was just another supply run, or so he thought. Razira was buzzing with its usual energy when Dirk arrived, exchanging nods with familiar vendors. He weaved through the marketplace, stopping to inspect a beautifully crafted plasma tool when a voice caught his attention. "You have strong hands, human." He turned to see a striking woman watching him. She was tall, even by tiarma standards, her toned body wrapped in dark battle leathers with golden accents. Her silver skin glowed under the city's lanterns, and her long black hair was pulled into a high ponytail. A belt of weapons rested on her hip, each blade and plasma gun polished to perfection. Dirk chuckled. "Ah, thanks. I am Sina," she said, stepping closer, her sharp gaze locking onto his. "You admire the weapons. Do you wield them?" "Only when my drill malfunctions," Dirk said, flashing a grin. Sina didn't laugh. Instead, her eyes darkened with an unreadable intensity. "Your hands are capable. Your form is strong. You would make a worthy mate." Dirk blinked. "Sorry." Sina lifted her chin. "You have spoken the words of a challenge. You placed your hand upon the blade of binding. The ritual has begun." Dirk looked down. The plasma tool he'd been holding wasn't just any tool. It was a ceremonial weapon, resting atop a carved pedestal. A nearby merchant gawked at the scene before darting away, shouting something in tiarma that Dirk couldn't understand. Sina stepped closer, her voice dropping to something almost reverent. "It is fate, then. You are mine." The marketplace erupted into a frenzy. Tiarma onlookers gasped, whispered, and some even cheered. Dirk, still processing what the hell had just happened, barely had time to react before Sina clasped a hand around his wrist, her grip unshakable. Wait, hold on," Dirk said, trying to pry himself free. "This is a misunderstanding. I was just looking." Sina's lips curled into something between a smirk and a growl. "You have awakened something dangerous in me, human. Now you have to handle it." Dirk swallowed hard. This supply run had officially gone off the rails. Dirk's tent was not built for two people, especially when one of them was a fully armed tiarma warrior who had just declared him her mate. Sina stood in the center of his cramped living space, inspecting everything with an intense scrutiny that made Dirk feel like she was evaluating a battlefield. Her weapons belt was now hanging from one of the support poles, and her arms were crossed over her chest, as if daring him to object to her presence. "Right," Dirk said, rubbing the back of his neck. "So, This is happening, huh? Sina tilted her head. You accepted the challenge. You spoke the words. It is done. Look, I'm not saying you're not. Impressive, Dirk said carefully, gesturing vaguely at her toned frame. But humans don't exactly do the whole instant life partner thing. Sina narrowed her eyes. You deny me. Dirk saw something shift in her expression, and suddenly he had the very real sense that she was about 5 seconds from flipping his entire tent, over in sheer outrage. He held up his hands. I'm saying, he amended, maybe we should talk about it first. Sina's expression softened, just a fraction. She took a step closer, and Dirk barely managed to keep himself from stepping back. She smelled like something smoky and rich, like the red sands after a rainstorm. Talked, she repeated. Yes, I must learn your customs if I am to be your mate. Dirk exhaled, relieved. Exactly. So let's. Sina pulled a large, curved dagger from her thigh, holster, and pressed it into his hands. Dirk stared at it. What am I supposed to do with this? You will carve your mark upon my shoulder. It is the way of the Tiarma. It will signify that I belong to you. Dirk choked on air. Ho, ho, ho. I'm not carving anything into you. Sina looked genuinely perplexed. Then how will others know they cannot challenge me for you? Challenge you? Dirk repeated. He suddenly had the sinking feeling that there was a very real, very physical risk involved in being Sina's mate. Before he could process it further, the tent flap flew open, and Miles poked his head inside. Oi, Dirk, you coming too? His voice trailed off as his gaze landed on Sina. His mouth worked for a second before a slow, delighted grin spread across his face. Oh, Miles said, crossing his arms. Oh, this is bloody fantastic. Dirk groaned. Don't start. I knew you had a thing for the warrior types, mate, but this... Miles let out a low whistle. The whole camp's talking about it. You've got yourself a wife now, huh? Sina squared her shoulders. Yes, he does. Miles looked far too entertained by this. And how's that going for you? Dirk shot him a glare. Miles, I swear to every god in the galaxy. The amusement on Miles's face only grew. Well, I'd love to stay and watch the domestic bliss unfold, but I'll let you two lovebirds settle in. He winked at Sina. Try not to break him, yeah? Sina smirked. He is strong. He will endure. Miles left howling with laughter, and Dirk let out a long, suffering sigh. Great, just great. Sina turned back to him, her expression unreadable. I will not harm you, Dirk Hinton. Dirk looked up at her, startled by the sudden softness in her tone. You are mine, she said, stepping closer, her fingers brushing lightly against his forearm. And I protect what is mine. Dirk swallowed hard. For the first time, he wasn't sure if he wanted to run from this, or if he was starting to like it. If Dirk had learned anything in his years working on Duna, it was that things could always get worse. And right now, things were much worse. It had started with a harmless conversation. A fellow digger, Tessa, blonde, sharp-witted, and known for her habit of flirting with everyone, had stopped by Dirk's tent to drop off some supplies. She leaned against the entrance, smirking. Big news travels fast, Dirk, she said, tossing him a ration pack. Didn't take you, for the settling down type. Thought you'd be more the one-night asteroid kind of guy. Dirk rolled his eyes. Not by choice. It's a cultural misunderstanding. Tessa grinned. Re-ate. Well, if you ever need a cultural exchange, That was when the tent flap nearly ripped off. Sina stood in the opening, shoulders squared, her black eyes locked onto Tessa with an intensity that made Dirk's blood run cold. And then Sina growled. Tessa blinked. Okay, that's new. Sina strode forward, placing herself between Dirk and Tessa. Like a living wall of muscle, leather, and very sharp weapons. You challenge me? Tessa lifted her hands. Whoa, challenge? I was just. Sina unsheathed a dagger. Oh, come on, Dirk groaned. The commotion had already drawn a crowd. The workers from the dig site, eager for any excuse to slack off, gathered around. A few of the Tiarma had also arrived, whispering excitedly. And then, to Dirk's utter horror, another Tiarma woman stepped forward, Zisha, a warrior just as battle-ready as Sina. He is strong, Zisha called, eyeing Dirk, like a prize stallion. If she does not deserve him, I will claim him instead. Dirk's stomach plummeted. Oh, hell no. Sina turned sharply, her jaw clenching. You dare? Zisha smirked. I do. And then the plasma guns came out. Dirk had exactly 2 seconds to throw himself behind a supply crate before the first blast hit the sand. The dig site exploded into chaos as Tiarma warriors ducked, rolled, and exchanged energy shots like it was a sporting event. This is not normal courtship behavior, Dirk shouted over the gunfire. Miles, crouched beside him, looked far too entertained. I know. I was expecting more of a fist fight, but this is some real commitment, mate. Not helping Miles, Dirk risked a peek over the crate. Sina had gone full warrior mode, dodging Zisha's plasma blasts with precision, her movements like a dance of pure destruction. With a swift leap, she landed on Zisha's shoulders, flipping her to the ground. A beat of silence. Then Zisha groaned in defeat. The Tiarma onlookers clapped, and Sina stood tall, victorious. She turned to Dirk, eyes blazing with pride. It is done. None will challenge me again. The crowd dispersed, and Dirk staggered to his feet, brushing dust off his pants. He looked at Sina, still panting from exertion, her silver skin glowing in the twin sunlight. And damn it, she looked incredible. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. You really meant it when you said you protect what's yours, pa? Sina stepped closer, cupping his face with surprising gentleness. You are mine, she said, voice lower now, almost reverent. I will always fight for you. Dirk swallowed hard. For the first time, the weight of her words hit him. She wasn't just possessive, she was devoted. This wasn't just instinct, it was real. And against all logic, all reason, Dirk realized he liked it. All right, warrior queen, he murmured. You win. Sina's smirk was slow, dangerous. Then come, she whispered. It is time we seal our bond. Dirk's pulse jumped. Oh. And suddenly he didn't mind the idea at all. Dirk had always thought of himself as a simple man. He liked his job, his friends, and a cold beer after a long day. He never expected to have his life turned upside down by a 6-foot, battle-hardened alien warrior who just fought off challengers for his hand like they were starring in some ancient epic. Yet here he was. And here Sina was, leading him by the hand toward a secluded ridge outside camp, where the sands of Duna stretched endlessly under the deep amber sky. Where are we going? Dirk asked, though he didn't really care about the answer. Sina glanced over her shoulder, eyes gleaming. Somewhere we will not be disturbed.